If you feel like you are submitting your resume to a digital black hole, this video is for you. I'm Christine. I've worked in analytics since 2015, eventually becoming a data director and hiring manager in companies in tech, consulting, and healthcare. And last year, I started my own data analytics mentorship program in which over 70% of applying students from my first cohort got analytics-related jobs within just 6 months of the first cohort ending. I've chatted with lots of data analysts from around the world, and some of the challenges that I'm seeing people face today are not knowing if your projects or resume are good enough to actually stand out in today's competitive job market, feeling like you don't really know how to translate your previous work experience to experience that's actually relevant to data hiring managers, and then of course also feeling like you're sending your resume out to this digital black hole and then never hearing back and not really knowing why, even though you have listed your technical skills, you have portfolio projects and previous work experience. So my goal is to take the overwhelm and the uncertainty out of this job hunt process so that you can take a more lean and clear roadmap to becoming a data analyst sooner. So let's walk through the resume strategy that I'm talking about. I call this framework the MINDS framework, which stands for metrics, intention, narrative, design, and skills. So metrics means having quantified metrics, insights, and recommendations in all of your data-related projects, especially your portfolio projects. This is super important because lots of people have really generic or commonplace projects that don't stand out to hiring managers without actually having business-relevant metrics. Intention means having a clear and concise bio that tells me something a little bit that's unique about you so that you can stand out from the stack, and also helps me understand that you do have a really clear intention in moving into data, especially for those of you guys who are transitioning from other industry. Narrative means having every single bullet related to an analytics related technical skill or soft skill so that it paints the picture of what you can do as a data analyst. Design means having a sleek, standout design that can actually help you stand out from the stack, because even though lots of companies use ATS to actually parse out the text in resumes, a lot of times recruiters, hiring managers, and interviewers later on, they'll still be looking at your resume to get a sense for who you are and how you represent yourself. And then lastly, the S stands for skills, in which you want to list your technical skills and then show, don't tell your soft skills. Do not just list your soft skills like leadership, communication, collaboration, because anyone can claim this, but you need to actually demonstrate your ability to do this through high impact bullets. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a sec. If we look at a bird's eye perspective of how this all comes together, you have your intention in your bio, you have a narrative and metrics and insights and recommendations in your projects, and then you've listed the technical skills, and then from a high level view, you have a standout design that actually can catch someone's eye. And to be honest, recruiters are looking at your resume for less than 30 seconds, so it's really important to give a high impact impression in that time. Okay, so I want to show you what this looks like in action. One of my students had been applying to jobs for months. He had even hired a resume writer for $500 and sent out 100 resumes and wasn't really hearing back from the companies that he was interested in for data analyst positions. He had self-taught skills in Excel, SQL, Python, and Tableau, and he also did a few portfolio projects and had previous work experience in sales and journalism. So you can see that the before version of his resume looks like this. His bio. So the bio says aspiring data analyst and former journalist with history of compiling data from various sources using statistical techniques to analyze data, identify and interpret trends, and communicating actionable data-driven insights. So this is decent, but it immediately highlights the self-learned aspect, which disadvantages him against other candidates, and it also uses generic phrases like data-driven insights and identify trends. Now, in the skills section, he lists his technical and his soft skills like leadership, communication, collaboration. But again, this is much more effective to show, don't tell your soft skills rather than just claiming them. He also immediately lists the Google Data Analytics certificate and then talks about his experience in sales and journalism. So again, he's disadvantaging himself here by just really highlighting the self-directed study, self-learned skills. And then his project bullet, like cleaned and analyzed employee recruitment data using SQL, is missing a unique level of detail that would really make this project stand out and help me see that you do actually understand how to bring company relevant insights and business metrics to the forefront. Now, I know that second part is a little bit tricky if you don't really know exactly what to build in portfolio projects. So if you want to learn more about this, just leave me a question below and I'll keep it in mind for the next video. In his past work in sales and journalism, the bullets are specific to sales and journalism. So for example, utilize customer relationship management database to analyze customer demand, increase agility of workforce, resolve complex customer service challenges, and contributed to projects ranging from press and community events. Now, these are also sales specific that for me as a data hiring manager, I just wouldn't really understand how this is actually relevant to a data analyst position. And you should look at the job descriptions that you're applying to, look at the soft skills and the technical skills that they have listed there, and make sure that your bullets address those soft skills. So the most relevant job is actually on the second page. And by the way, the second page is a no-no, especially if you have less than 5 years of relevant work experience. Your resume should only be 1 page long because again, someone's only looking at your resume for like a few seconds. Here's where he brings metrics and insights to the forefront and actually illustrates his technical skills by thinking and listing through the tool, the impact, and the quantified metric. And that's exactly what we need to see more of. So the big downfalls here are: one, the bullets aren't high impact and analytics related. Two, the resume emphasizes the self-learn aspect, which disadvantages you against other people. Three, the resume is just too long. And four, there are so many unused opportunities to bring business relevant metrics to the forefront to demonstrate your value and analytical mindset as a data analyst. Okay, so now let's look at what this actually looks like to use the MINDS framework to transform a satisfactory resume to a stellar resume that looks like this. Now Pat has a standout bio that says naturally inquisitive data analyst with a successful record of data-driven process improvement, business management, and KPI reporting, skilled in Excel, SQL, and Tableau, highly motivated to combine these growing skills with my journalism background to drive innovation and efficiency across all facets of a business. Now, this is a really confident and clear intentioned bio that also helps me understand the fact that your journalism background might contribute directly to being a strong data analyst and using those unique personality traits that help you stand out and leave a more lasting impression. Now, if we look at a bird's eye perspective of this resume and just back up, we see that now more than 50% of the resume is directly related to data, just because it's been moved around to have the data associate and community liaison position at the top, and also list the data analytics experience and projects and just talk directly about the projects instead of the certificate. Then he's also condensed his experience as a store manager and as a journalist to a smaller section at the bottom so that you can see that there are still relevant metrics here and also some soft skills that are relevant, but it's not as big of a focus as the other positions that are way more translatable to data. If we take a look at how he talks through the first position, we can see that every single bullet actually mentions a metric. And it doesn't actually have to be something that is a very data-driven project, but it needs to be some kind of metric or quantified understanding of what you did in that role. Notice that even though Pat is moving from a community liaison role to a more formalized data analyst role, he actually transformed each of these bullets to actually use a business metric to quantify some of his impact. So here it's still important to just mention some of the business metrics that you would have been working on. So for example, if you worked in retail or sales, talk about how many customers you were managing, talk about how you were tracking against forecasts, talk about the kind of metrics that you had in that role to show some of that analytical mindset for the jobs that you're transitioning into data from. Now, when he talks about the data analytics experience and projects, for example, in the first bullet, post-pandemic e-commerce analysis, developed marketing and product mix strategies to sustain pandemic-era revenue increases for an electronics retailer using Excel, SQL, and Tableau to analyze 80K transaction records, built performance dashboards to provide stakeholders with actionable business intelligence, evaluated the loyalty program, and discovered opportunities to increase LTV across Northeast regions by 30%. So some of you might be thinking that this bullet is kind of long, and it is a little bit more of a mouthful, but it is way more highly impactful than just having a bullet that is less than 1 line long that just says that you did some analysis in Excel or SQL. You really need to show what was involved in the analysis, what's the magnitude of the data that you were actually working with, and what is the insight or business relevant recommendation that you came out of this with, even for self-guided projects. So in this situation, Pat also uses data lingo like marketing and product mix strategy, revenue increases, transaction records, performance dashboards, and actionable business intelligence, as well as a recommendation on the loyalty program. So all of these things really help legitimize your portfolio projects against all the other people who are doing portfolio projects that are much more generic and don't have hands-on company applications. For the last position, here he mentions identifying and analyzing open source data sets and also planning and conducting interviews with subject matter experts. So this is more of a soft skill in showing that you know how to ask questions, you know how to survey people, you know how to work with other people and collect that information. Even though there isn't an explicit data metric here, it's still made much more translatable to data analytics than the before version of this bullet, which said that you had worked with a Pulitzer Prize winner and had worked on something to publish an article that just really didn't seem that relevant to a data analytics position. I know it can be a bit tricky to understand how to craft these bullets if you're coming from industries that aren't directly related to data. So if you have specific questions, leave a comment below. I will make another video on this that deep dives into how to actually do this. In the meantime, I'll just leave you with 2 more examples that shows a before and after of how you want to start pulling out unique details in every single bullet that help you stand out. I call these 3D bullets because they always have 3 degrees of detail, including the specifics on industry, metrics, or unique insight and outcome. For a bio, a lot of people will say something like aspiring data analyst with 5 years of experience in education. Instead, it's much more powerful to say, former educator with a passion for communicating concepts to a variety of audiences and a knack for creating collaborative environments. Skilled in Excel, SQL, and Tableau, looking forward to using these tools to drive insights and recommendations to cross-functional teams. Another example is a lot of times people talk about their portfolio projects in this kind of very generic way, where they say something like, analyze data in Excel and SQL to understand trends on housing prices for the last 5 years. A lot of people could say that if they had the same data set as you. It is much more effective to talk about what you actually did, not only the tools that you used, but also what you found and what you would have done with that if you were working at a company. So for example, the after looks like this. Conducted exploratory analysis and cleaning for dataset with 20,000 rows in Excel to understand trends in international housing prices over the last 5 years. Use SQL to summarize trends, discovered regions with highest growth rates in housing prices were in East Asia. Created dashboards in Tableau to further illustrate trends split by seasons, country, currency, and household size. Your strategy should be a standout applicant for a fewer number of roles rather than a mediocre or halfway fit for a large number of roles. And that's actually what happened with Pat. So just a few weeks after sending out this new version of his resume, he went from sending out almost 100 resumes, not really hearing back about interviews, to already hearing back within just a few weeks with this new version for roles that he was excited by. And he ultimately landed a role as a data analyst at a global marketing company just a few weeks after sending out this new version of his resume, and actually doubled his salary from just over a year ago. I want to hear more directly from you about what exactly the questions or the challenges are that you're bumping into as you're trying to move into a data analytics position. So leave a question or a comment below, or just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I will read every single one of them and keep them in mind as I start planning out my next few videos. I'm going to be posting new videos here every single week to bring more insights from inside the industry. So stay tuned, subscribe, and I will see you soon.